Okay, so good afternoon. Welcome to our career corner for today. Today we are joined by Jordan Pelly, and the career that she is going to share today is her role as a funeral director. So welcome, Jordan. We're happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, so who you are, what you did for your career and where you worked and that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. So as Shaylee said, my name is Jordan Pelly. I worked at Parker Funeral Home in Parker, Colorado. It is a family-owned funeral home and crematory. So I would meet with families, but with it being family-owned, everybody kind of did everything. So I would do things all the way from picking up the deceased person at where they passed away, to meeting with the family, to working the funeral. But that also was a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. I prepared the person for the funeral as far as doing the hair and makeup on the deceased. I did the cremations, pretty much anything from start to finish when somebody passes away to burying them, I had a hand on. So that's what I did.
Very nice. So how or why did you choose this career?
I kind of fell into it, actually. At the time, I was going to school and working full time, but I found myself without a job, but I had a car payment and a dog to provide for. So I knew the family who owned the funeral home, and I had kind of just asked them, I said, hey, can you employ me for about 3 weeks? I'll water flowers, I'll do the cleaning, just give me money for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I ended up falling in love with the company and the business, and I worked my way up, and I stayed there for what ended up being about 3.5 years. So yeah.
Very nice. So when you went into this job, did you need to receive any additional education in order to do the things that you were doing within this job?
Not in Colorado. In a lot of the in other states, you do have to be a licensed funeral director. For example, in Kansas, a very close state to Colorado, they do have to have a license for a funeral director. Colorado, you do not have to be. And in fact, I had worked with other funeral directors who did have their license, which was good for them. But they would even say that with this type of job, you learned on site. You can't really prepare for dealing with the loss of a loved one and helping the family through that until you're kind of in it. So everything I learned was on site and just kind of tossed in with the wolves.
Very nice. What was your favorite thing about this job?
So I have two. I hope I can share that.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things was doing the hair and makeup on the deceased. I even on living people, I like watching TikToks of the transformations of makeup. And it's like, oh my gosh, that person doesn't even look the same. So I really enjoyed transforming somebody by doing their hair and their makeup and making them look peaceful, but also pretty for their loved ones. But it was fun to do that. They didn't complain either if their hair was messed up.
If you pulled a little too hard brushing their hair, they didn't complain.
They didn't complain if I, did something, burned them on accident with the iron. And then also with that job, my absolute favorite part was I left work every day knowing that I did something, that I made a difference in somebody's life. My current job, I'm not a funeral director anymore. And when I started this current job as a business operations representative, the hardest thing for me was to come home and realize that I just pushed orders all day, that I didn't feel I'm not necessarily needed. These people at the funeral home needed me, and that gave me a sense of worth, and it felt really good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you say was the most difficult part of your career or of your job?
Yep. So again, too, because I kind of looked at it in the front office of the funeral home as far as being with families, and also in the back office is dealing with the bodies. The hardest part of kind of dealing with the bodies was just the sadness. I mean, you did see things, that the last body that I ever took care of was a woman who had committed suicide with a shotgun to her head. And that's just something you don't unsee, you know, and
Absolutely.
so that was very hard to see and deal with. But the other hardest part would be dealing with the families, because there is one person who makes all the decisions.
Mhm.
Most of the time it's a spouse, sometimes it's a parent, but a lot of the time it's, you know, a sibling, it's a child, and that child has 3 or 4 siblings, and the other siblings don't get along. And so you really kind of need to play mediator, you know.
Oh, yep.
Let
Yep.
me hear everybody out, but I got to kind of help make the decisions for each one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see how that would be difficult for sure. So besides the money, what else did this job provide for you in life? So I know you already talked a little bit like about like, did you feel like you were making a difference? So it gave you that sense of satisfaction. You want to speak a little bit more to that?
So definitely gave me the satisfaction of helping people, but I will say, even to this day, and I don't deal with death every day anymore, it really helped me realize I don't want to leave somebody mad at them, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
say hurtful things. We're all still human. I still do sometimes spat something off to my husband, and we go to bed mad at each other at night. Um, but at the end of the day, I try not to, because I had so many people and families that I dealt with that would say, man, the last time I talked to them, we kind of had a little argument, and that's how we left it for the rest of our lives. You know, I
Yep.
never talked to them again. Also, you know, it taught me how fragile life really is. Everybody, you know, I don't text and drive, but at times, you know, maybe I would text at a stoplight or at a stop sign, not when I was actually driving, but, you know, then things, you'd have a case where somebody passed of
Mm-hmm.
texting and driving. You're like, oh my gosh, you know, just a reality check. Life is so fragile. And when you think it won't happen to you, it definitely could.
Absolutely. Um, and then I think part of this question that I think is important, because you talk about like the front office and the back office. Do you feel that you were in that role, providing a place for people, to be, um, like comforted and that kind of thing? Loss is a hard thing. Do you feel like you were really able to be a part of comforting people in that sense?
I do. And I don't feel like it's for everybody that they can fit into a position like that. But one of the things that I would say that I'm prideful of is that I have sympathy and empathy for those family. One of the things that I would say in the meetings with the family is, I wouldn't say I'm sorry. I mean, yes, I'm sorry for your loss. It's terrible. I wish it didn't happen. But no words and no sorry is going to be, you know, adequate. So
Mhm.
I would say, you know, something along the lines of, I know we don't understand why. We
Yep.
just have to know that there is a reason why, and we're not in control of that. But I do feel I've provided that comfort to families. And I would oftentimes have families leave, and they'd hug me and they'd cry and they'd say, oh, you're part of our family. And now I'm friends with a lot of them on Facebook.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a connection there that you won't ever break. I mean, I was my husband's father's funeral director. And that's how we
Yep.
met. So I comfort him there.
Yeah. And you continue to comfort him, huh?
Yes, I do. He's still there.
So I know that we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, that you don't know the exact salary range for this job, but would you say, in your experience now, I know you said that you don't have to have like a director's education or degree in Colorado, but do you feel that if you have like that higher education or like those specific credentials, does that increase your pay in this field, or does it matter?
I think it does. I was at a family-owned funeral home, and so I was at a cap. They couldn't pay me
Mhm.
anymore. But I do know at larger funeral homes, they do kind of look at if they have a degree, if they have that certificate. And if they do, you know, they do have a little bit more knowledge in certain things. And so they are in turn paid a little bit more, I believe. I do think you kind of work your way to the top, but I do think the degree does help in a way, especially if you want to do hair and makeup. There is a degree at, I know, Arapahoe Community College, I'm sure other colleges offer it, that is mortuary science.
Oh, okay.
And they teach a lot of things. I learned everything on site. I wasn't perfect, if you get a degree, some people can come into a funeral home and they can take a car crash victim and make them look beautiful. They can remold a face, that was murdered or something.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could do that. I could put on some mascara and stuff and make somebody look good. But I do think if you have the education, you can get a little higher, a little quicker.
Gotcha. Very nice. And then is there anything else that, within not even just this career or this job, but your current job or the process of getting to where you were and are now that you would like to share with the students of Weld Central Middle School?
I think at the end of the day, it's your happiness that matters. It doesn't necessarily mean the amount of money. Yes, we got to make money to live. However, I do feel it's happiness. I worked at that funeral home. I loved what I did as far as the actual job, but I wasn't happy in a lot of other aspects of working at that funeral home. And I did make the move to my current job as a business operations associate at Arrow Electronics. And I don't think when I was working at the funeral home, I didn't think I was depressed or anything. But when I moved on to a new job, I realized how my life was happier all around. And when I look back, I think, wow, the money I was making might have been better, but my happiness means so much more to me right now. So it's not all about money. And then lastly, school isn't for everybody. I have an associate's degree in business. Sometimes I say I wish I would have gone longer, but I didn't. However, I work alongside equal pay, equal position with a girl who has her master's degree.
Oh.
So we're both in the same place, one with an associate and one with a master's. So it's not all about that at times either, even though it's important, but find your happiness.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today, Jordan. It was a pleasure to hear about, your previous job and then obviously a little bit about your current one now and just all the experience that you have. So the students and I are grateful that you chose to share your time with us.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate thinking of me.
Of course.